The leaders of the US and Germany both declared on Wednesday that they would send tank brigades to Ukraine, reversing their previous reservations about arming Kyiv with offensive armored vehicles and launching potent new weapons in the country's battle to retake territory lost to Russia. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said he will send Leopard 2 tanks, and US President Joe Biden said he would send 31 M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, reversing the administration's longtime opposition to Kyiv's requests for the highly advanced but maintenance-intensive vehicles. After weeks of intense pressure on Berlin from some of its NATO allies, the two announcements were a historic turn of events. The decisions, which come as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky gets ready for a new Russian offensive this spring, are the result of extensive diplomacy between Germany, the United States, and other European allies. Biden stated that the tanks would enhance Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives in the short and long term, while speaking from the White House. While praising the tanks' capacity to aid Ukraine in countering Russia's evolving tactics and strategy on the battlefield, Biden insisted that Moscow should not regard them as an offensive threat. Russia is not under attack by this. If Russian troops go back to Russia, where they belong, there is no offensive threat to Russia, he claimed. The choice to send Leopard 2 tanks was made after consultation with Western allies, Scholz earlier told German lawmakers. It's appropriate that we made progress gradually. In such hazardous circumstances, that is the only principle that will hold through, he claimed. The first signs of division in the coordinated Western response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine threatened to appear in the argument over whether Germany would send Leopards to support Ukraine. However, the announcement from Scholz and Biden demonstrates that the US and its allies are still cooperating in support of President Volodymyr. On CNN's At This Hour, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that the US and German decisions were important announcements, and that he welcomed US leadership in bringing them about. Regarding the impact the tanks will have on the Ukrainian military, Stoltenberg said, it will significantly strengthen their combat capabilities. The US is deploying 31 Abrams tanks. The US's decision to give the Ukraine Abrams tanks is a sharp reversal of its previously stated position. The 70-ton M1 Abrams tanks are expensive and require extensive training to operate, according to US officials, who publicly stated last week that it was not the right time to send them. However, the Biden administration had never completely ruled out the possibility of sending American tanks. The tanks, instead, were repeatedly floated as a long-term option, even as critics said it was the right time, as Ukraine braces for the possibility Russia will mobilize more troops and launch a new offensive. Zelensky has consistently asked Western allies for modern tanks, as his country prepares braces for an expected major Russian counteroffensive in the spring. Yet after an intensive bout of diplomacy with Germany, who had made clear it would only send its Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine if the United States offered up the Abrams, Biden has given the sign-off on sending the vehicles. The 31 Abrams will form a complete Ukrainian tank battalion. Abrams tanks are the best in the world. This is a tremendous new capability that Ukraine will be getting to boost its long-term defenses, a senior administration official said, noting that the tanks will be procured through the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative funding. Biden spoke by phone Wednesday with Scholz, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, French President Emmanuel Macron, and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to discuss continued military support for Ukraine. US officials said maintaining unity among the Western alliance was a critical consideration as Biden and his team came around on sending the Abrams tanks. The Abrams tanks will take months to arrive, senior administration officials said, and will require extensive training for Ukrainian troops on how to operate and service them. The US must navigate complicated supply chains for the components required for the tanks. The procurement process will take months, the officials said, though Germany's Leopards will arrive in the near term. In the meantime, the US will begin a comprehensive training program for the Ukrainians on the Abrams, which will require significant maintenance once they are deployed. The training will occur outside Ukraine. The US is also procuring 8 M88 recovery vehicles, the second official said, which will help keep the Abrams tanks up and running. Speaking ahead of the president's announcement, senior US officials framed the decision as an investment in Ukraine's longer-term capabilities, an indication the administration sees the now 11-month-long war extending well into the future. Ukraine hopes the new tanks can help it retake territories seized by Russia, including in the Donbas. That could also include Crimea, the peninsula annexed by Russia in 2014. We've been talking about tanks internally, and we certainly have been talking about tanks externally, with allies and partners, for quite some time, given what we expect will be the kinds of fighting that will occur in weeks and months ahead, an official said. Still, officials acknowledge the challenges in providing Ukraine the Abrams tanks were still steep. There are technical aspects to the Abrams which makes it a little bit more challenging than some systems that we have provided Ukraine in the past, a senior official said. It is the most capable tank in the world, but it's also sophisticated. The months required to procure, build and ship the tanks will allow Ukrainian fighters time to learn how to use and maintain them, the official said. Germans to send 14 tanks to Ukraine. The Germans' goal is to assemble 2 tank battalions with Leopard 2 tanks for Ukraine, the government statement said. In a first step, Berlin will provide a company of 14 Leopard 2A6 tanks from Bundeswehr stocks, with the training of the Ukrainian crews to begin quickly in Germany. In addition to training, the package will also include logistics, ammunition and maintenance of the systems. The German defense minister said the Leopard tanks could be operational in Ukraine in about 3 months. Boris Pistorius, speaking to reporters Wednesday, said training would come first, then the tanks would be sent east. The German army has 320 Leopard 2 tanks in its possession, but does not reveal how many would be battle-ready, a spokeswoman for the Ministry of Defense previously told CNN. Germany will also allow other countries to export the battle tank, it said. Poland on Tuesday formally asked for approval from Germany to transfer some of its German-made Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. Several European countries also owned some Leopards, and Poland had led an effort to re-export those to Ukraine, even if Germany was not on board. Addressing the German parliament following the announcement, Scholz said he had spoken to Zelensky before coming to parliament. During his speech, the German leader said Germany, together with the US and UK, had sent the most weapons systems to Ukraine, and insisted that his country would be at the forefront of support for Ukraine. Vadim Skibitsky during an interview with CNN. Ukraine wants longer-range missiles as Russia learns from its mistakes. Sending Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine will provide Kyiv's forces with a modern and powerful military vehicle, ahead of a potential Russian spring offensive. It will also come as a blow to the Kremlin, which has seen a growing campaign to equip Ukrainian troops with high-tech fighting systems, as Russia's ground war nears the 1-year mark. Germany had initially resisted a growing drumbeat of Western pressure to ship some of the tanks to Ukraine, with new German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius repeatedly calling for more time and insisting that the move would come with pros and cons for Berlin. Allies backed Berlin's move. The UK had set the precedent for providing Ukraine with main battle tanks last week, after it pledged to send Kyiv 14 of its British Army Challenger 2 tanks. The agreement crossed what had previously appeared to be a red line for the US and its European allies. Ukrainian officials have consistently pleaded with their Western allies to provide modern battle tanks to be used not only to defend their present positions, but also to take the fight to the enemy in the coming months. Ukrainians fear that a second Russian offensive may begin within 2 months. Although Ukraine has stocks of Soviet-era tanks, modern Western tanks provide a greater level of speed and agility. In particular, the Leopard's relatively low maintenance demands compared to other models lead experts to believe the tanks could help Ukraine quickly on the battlefield. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak hailed Germany's move as the right decision in the wake of Wednesday's announcement. The right decision by NATO allies and friends to send main battle tanks to Ukraine. Alongside Challenger 2s, they will strengthen Ukraine's defensive firepower. Together, we are accelerating our efforts to ensure Ukraine wins this war and secures a lasting peace, Sunak wrote on Twitter. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff welcomed the news and reiterated the country needed a lot of Leopard tanks. Writing on Telegram, Andriy Yermak said, "The first tank step has been taken. Next up is the tank coalition. We need a lot of Leopards." Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki praised German Chancellor Scholz for his decision. "Thank you, Olaf Scholz. The decision to send Leopards to Ukraine is a big step towards stopping Russia. Together we are stronger," Morawiecki wrote on Twitter.